Power can provide the weak with an opportunity. However, its abuse can provide the strong with a weapon. This tool can assume many forms, imposing philosophies upon intellectuals for as long as man has possessed critical thought. Wielded by individuals and organizations, its influence has grown throughout time, now present in every interaction we have with our surrounding world. What happens when these sources of power, admired for their achievements and talent, abandon their support systems in support of radicalized dogmas and the panic that follows? Are we still capable of detaching the art from the predicaments of its creators? I seek to investigate the reality of this phenomenon. This video will analyze the complexity of controversy and the cultural systems, scrutinizing the nature of power, creativity, and the varying responsibilities attached to it. As I examine material covering the social semantics of moral panic, I look towards eons of philosophy, psychology, and cultural discourse for answers. A figure central to my thesis focuses around one of the world's most prolific artists, Kanye West, and the repercussions his recent anti-Semitic rampage has had on his own career and the society which conceived him. I interpret the reaction to not only Kanye's escapades, but those in response to various abuses of power as moral panics, social media being an object of this anxiety and cancel culture an extension to this weapon. In cases of controversy, who are the stakeholders at risk? Is it you or I? Is it the multi-conglomerate, black suit wearing Tom Wham-scams of the world? Ultimately, I aim to take a shot at answering whether we can indeed separate the art from the artist. Rise to fame and power is often worshipped by onlookers with a vested interest in the tales of their role models. In response to cultural events challenging established norms and behavior of specific communities, a collective societal reaction characterized by fear, anxiety, and outrage often arises. Developed and popularized by South African criminologist Stanley Cohen, moral panic functions to reaffirm the core values of society due to its reflective nature. Some say he introduced the semantic discourse of this phenomenon, finding it to be a condition or episode presented by the media in a stylized fashion. The object of the panic itself is frequently novel. However, they may arise from long-existing issues catalyzed by an interruption to long-standing norms. The implications of these episodes can vary greatly. Sometimes they are forgotten, subsiding as soon as they erupt, as Critcher in his analysis of the trajectory of this social model suggests. These panics are likely to have long-lasting repercussions, producing changes in legal and social policy, or even affecting the self-reflective capabilities of a society. This concept began with concerns regarding a youth subculture of deviants and delinquents throughout Britain in the 1960s. These sort of groups, now including hippies and skinheads, were deemed by the mass media to be folk devils, public property reminding us of what we should not be. Although the meaning of folk devil may no longer hold as much significance, instead it now takes place in Habermas's concept of the public sphere, where the elite and the collective public butt heads. This is where discussion of cancelling comes in, a phenomenon labeled by American social journalist Meredith Clark as an expression of agency, a choice to withdraw one's attention from someone or something whose values in action or speech are so offensive, one no longer wishes to grace them with their presence, time, and money. As I discovered in my second assessment, this term grew from critical race theories concerning marginalized communities. What underpins this issue is a misinformed and alienating society that, by unapologetically anchoring itself in Western politics, perpetuates a culture targeting Cohen's deviance. It is in this regard that being cancelled can be considered a moral panic akin to actual harm being caused. Hashtag-driven activism through social media means millions of everyday participants can actively demand accountability from powerful figures. Now, with an understanding of moral panic and how cancel culture is a strategic conduit of this phenomenon, I shed light on a recent case of this issue. Kanye West's recent attempts to condemn the Jewish community and the subsequent tarnishing of his name have resulted in a reaction from the general public, those with a vested interest in his brand, as well as the multiple fashion and music organizations who have cut operational ties with the artist.
Every human being has something of value that they brought to the table, especially Hitler.
The moral panics in response to Kanye's action I consider overtly justified. However, is it enough to simply identify Kanye's actions as wicked and unethical, yet proceeding to consume his music and wear the apparel attached to his name? Kanye is a walking instigator of moral panic. From controversies at the MTV Awards, run-ins with former presidents, and claims towards George Bush's care for black people, it is no doubt these come with a heavy impact to his status. There is an argument that Ye's identity on display causes many to disregard his talent for pure anarchism. However, there is also the conversation that for Kanye, an open victim to substance abuse, a victim of insomnia, and having experienced bipolar disorder himself, Can we hold him directly responsible for his grandiose and erroneous beliefs? Can we draw a line between what constitutes empathy when the nature of his comments is so prejudiced? Pop culture critic for the New York Times, Chuck Klosterman, provides perspective to Kanye's ideology around the media, claiming that although his ideas, specifically that the media is an inherently immoral and dehumanizing process, are radical, they are in no means insane. The media as an agent of panic have amplified moral concern and entertained Ye's situation instead of taking away his platform and ability to spread these views. This case displays how a prominent figure can evoke strong emotional responses and prompt discussions about the ethical implications of supporting an artist enshrined in controversy. Ultimately, moral panic is a multifaceted discourse which raises many questions about the circumstances that they operate within. This presents a nuanced debate about the intersection of art, abuse of power, and societal expectations. The media's role in amplifying moral panic and shaping public perception cannot be overlooked, often contributing to stylized evaluations of the artist. I ultimately suggest that we cannot apply one objective ruling towards the nature of separating art from artist. The extent of their wrongdoings, the communities affected, and the harm caused must all be considered in order to justify further approaches to their circumstances. The individual, as an active participant in the public sphere, must critically question their own beliefs and why they should or should not align an artist's ideology with their own. As to the pitch and assessment too, I believe I have substantially improved my discussion and application of social theories in practice. I took feedback from the pitch and was determined to provide context and evaluate whether certain moral panics were valid or not. I also demonstrated how moral panic has grown to incorporate cancel culture and went into greater detail about what I see as one of the most visible examples of this issue through Kanye West.